It goes without saying, but the story goes a lot deeper than our script writers ever want us to know about or to sense and feel. Simply put, the more that we know, the less that they like us. The upper hand is always gained and maintained by our lack of awareness and our lack of ability to express anything of value. That seems to be a common theme that I've picked up on a long time ago, and it's still as relevant as ever. There seems to be also an internal difference between things that we've caught wind of and things that we're able to express. And it's simply because of our lack of cues from our environment, the normality of everything, nothing being changed too drastically enough to pinpoint or to talk about, and as well as the prevalence of wrong details, misinformation. As they say, the devil's in the details, and usually the details are going to be wrong enough to paint the wrong picture, which is the whole point, just a big conundrum and a clusterfuck, so to speak. But many spiritual insights and epiphanies that you're having of the existential spiritual variety are just going to seem too weird to the common man who's not going through what you're going through. We're, like I've said many times, we're on different timelines of the same spectrum, but not everybody's going to see it the same way, and the manipulation of other people will always be a factor in the equation. You can reasonably expect, if you have something big, heavy, or something important to express, that the people around you are not going to be feeling the same way you are. They're not on the same wavelength, same plane of reality, so to speak. And their lack of understanding is meant to distress you. It's meant to challenge your beliefs. It's meant to distort your reality. And in many cases, it's enough to drive people to suicide. So it's definitely a tactic of evil in the world that we can't easily point to, but we can feel it if we're experiencing it. And everything is easy to misinterpret. There's always going to be ways to misunderstand information more than there is ways to understand anything. But just remember that the universe has chosen to speak to you first for a reason, and it will speak to other people later on, and I have a feeling that the message is going to be much harsher and less forgiving to them. Many people are familiar with that phrase, God speaks to me, and that does sum it up in a way, but it's not too strange if you believe in a higher power, that statement, God has spoken to me. But it makes you wonder, though, why are so many tight-lipped and restrained and contained in this? And as I've mentioned, it's simply because there are manipulative factors that we can't even begin to identify, but we know about. And the cognitive dissonance that many of us experience on this plane of reality, it's a necessary tool of evil to keep us stuck in one thing but feeling completely different about it and never able to be real about it at all. They never want our beliefs, especially anything that's a newfound belief that we've stumbled across, to enlighten us. They never want it to commingle or influence our actions in our reality. They want it to be in our brains just enough to distress us. We can't be who we want to be, that sort of philosophy. And that's pretty prevalent, I feel like. But the powers that be want you and need you in predictable patterns. If you break out of anything that's predictable, that's a headache for them. They have to think more. They want a self-sustaining control over things. They don't want to have to think and be different at all. They're creatures of habit, and they like creatures of habit, especially when they're influencing their habits, so to speak. But ultimately, just remember that your emotional well-being, your mental health, and your spiritual wellness are never going to be factors for other people. That's something that's near and dear to you, and you alone, until you reach the right people and know the right people where you can actually share ideas and be different and build upon something. But until then, it's just the grind that we must endure, so to speak. But keep grinding it out.